To help in these challenging times, we've reduced the cost of our home insurance. Get our lowest price at the AA.ie.
This evening, rain heavy at times will continue to spread over the country. It will remain mild in a strong and gusty south to southwest wind. Now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Hello there, you're welcome along to Monday evening's Off the Ball. So clarity around the Republic of Ireland going forward. Stephen Kenny is the man in charge with immediate effect. Mick McCarthy's tenure has come to an end. We'll chat to Kevin Kilbane this hour. David Myler will join us on the football show. After 8 o'clock then, Paul Rouse continues his History of Irish Sport series. This evening, it's the 19th century that we're looking at when sport, as we know it, I suppose, began to take shape, all in the midst of the Great Famine, obviously, as well. So fascinating stuff from Paul Rouse on the way post 8 o'clock. 53106 is the text number. Do get in touch. We're at Off the Ball on Twitter as well. Richie McCormack, good evening to you.
How are you, Joe? How are you on this rather lovely Monday evening? So lovely. I've been warned from JP, the producer, that I have some John McTiernan-esque lens flare from the window to my left, and so I had to close the blinds. That's where we are, Joe. It's practically summer.
It's felt like it today. Nathan Murphy also with us. Good evening.
20 degrees on Thursday, they're saying.
Oh, yes.
Is it really?
I will do a nice 2-kilometre loop to celebrate.
20 on Thursday.
Mm.
Dear, oh dear. Well, there are a few things going on. So clarity around the Republic of Ireland going forward. This news broke on Saturday here in Off the Ball. Big news, a big decision taken, but I think in the main, Nathan, one, it seems legally this thing was very straightforward. That was one of the questions we had over the last couple of weeks. Was there, a line in Mick McCarthy's contract whereby he might be entitled to see out his tenure until the end of the European campaign? That wasn't the case, it seems. It was very clear, 31st of July to Stephen Kenny's 1st of August. And the FAI decided to make the decision, make it quickly, make it clear for everyone. I think in the main, almost 100% really. I haven't heard many dissenting voices, if any. In the main, the decision has been welcomed as a good one.
Yeah, I think once it was clear that Mick McCarthy's contract was up at the end of July and not at the end of this European Championship campaign, it was probably a very straightforward decision for the FAI. And I think it has been broadly welcomed, particularly because they were able to get that backroom staff appointed so quickly. And having Damien Duff and Keith Andrews and knowing that John O'Shea is going in with the under-21s with Jim Crawford, I think there's a definite sense of, yeah, this is a new era. And the way the fixture list is potentially shaping up, though we'll have to wait and see, where we may end up in a situation where they're talking about 9 games between September, October, November, that there is an opportunity now to kick on. And everything we've spoken about for the last 18 months about what Stephen Kenny could offer, we're now going to see. And also, I think as people maybe looked a bit more into the last 18 months under Mick McCarthy, a realisation that there hadn't been a lot of progress. I think at first there was a lot of disappointment for Mick, understandably, because he's handled himself so well over the last year as this entire shit show developed within the FAI, but in particular this weekend, and how he has stepped away early, albeit been obviously well rewarded for his time. But he could have made life very difficult for both the FAI and in particular probably for Stephen Kenny if he had wanted to. He's clearly not that type of character. It's not in his nature. So I think initially there was a lot of sympathy, but then probably a realisation that if these playoff games had gone ahead, well, last week as they originally meant to, there was no great hope amongst Irish fans that Ireland could win 2 back-to-back away games against Slovakia and Northern Ireland or Bosnia, and that actually, while things had improved from the final year under Martin O'Neill, and how could they not, because it had unravelled so badly, they probably never got even to the best of Martin O'Neill's level, where he was sort of 15, 16, and that it was still just a continuation of really what we've had for 14, 15 years of pretty average football, nothing very modern about it, nothing very different. We let teams have the ball, we try and strike on the counter-attack. We don't have Robbie Keane, so we don't really have a goal scorer, and nobody really with any answers. And the hope is that Stephen Kenny does have those answers. Yeah, we'll talk to David Myler about that. I mean, certainly he's just sending a note of caution, really, that it's not as easy as we might all hope to suddenly translate the brilliant football we've seen from Kenny teams of late straight to senior men's international football. He's been there, he's done it, he knows how difficult it is. He knows, for instance, that even under the much maligned Martin O'Neill regime, they absolutely wanted and encouraged the team to play football. It doesn't just happen. I guess the reason we have faith in Stephen Kenny
is because he has done it with Dundalk in Europe. He's done it with the 21s. He has a methodology. He has a way of imparting the knowledge to teams about how to play decent football, and that's needed. It's probably not enough just to encourage teams to play. You have to insist on it. So that is the situation. I totally agree on the Mick McCarthy point. And Richie, I would hope that whenever we get back to full houses, and I don't know when that will be, but everything Nathan said there about the way Mick has handled the situation is spot on. He could have just added a degree of rancour to this, left a bitter taste, a sense that he had been badly treated. It would have made things trickier for Stephen Kenny, albeit life would have moved on. He has done none of that, and his interview on Saturday evening with FAI TV was class personified. So I fully hope he's brought back in a couple of months' time and given the goodbye and the farewell at the Aviva Stadium he deserves.
I think generally for everything that he's done over the last 30-odd years in relation to the Republic of Ireland setup, that Mick McCarthy absolutely deserves that send-off that he got. His parting of the ways, although the circumstances are markedly different, really reminded me of the Brian Clough leaving of Leeds in 74, whereby after the discussions that he would be leaving the job, they staged a press conference outside Ellen Road, or I think it was a hotel perhaps in Leeds city centre, and both Manny Cousins, the Leeds chairman, and Clough were pictured side by side, and Clough was smiling and happy and saying, listen, I'm after going away with a nice, he didn't couch it in these terms, but a nice wedge in my back pocket, so there's absolutely no ill feeling here. And I don't think from McCarthy's point of view there should be either. The fact that Ireland or the FAI would continue to pay somebody just out of kindness and politeness and a sense of duty beyond their contract date, just, when you think about it, just seems odd. Like, why would it be that situation confined only to football, especially given the finances the FAI have found themselves looking after over the past 18 months? So makes absolute sense. Everybody's handled it in exactly the right way, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Kenny can bring.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. So we'll talk to Kevin Kilbane this hour. David Myler on the football show. Myself and Nathan will tease a few things out as well. We had Gary Breen and Damon Delaney on the show yesterday. Really good debate between those two over the Mick McCarthy era. Two people who really know their football, as we know from talking to them down the years, with very different views on the job that Mick did. Gary Breen thought it was a very respectable job, absolutely, and he did move the style of play on, not just the mood, but the style of play improved. Damon Delaney was far from convinced. So we'll play some of that before we get to Kev at 7:30, and the full thing is available on YouTube or offtheball.com or the Go Loud app. I see, Nathan, and I'm sure it's in your news round, Richie. In fact, let's start the news round, and I might just jump forward to this story because I want to get some thoughts on it. Liverpool, in the last hour or so, have released a statement. They have done a U-turn on the furloughing situation.
Yeah, rather dramatic U-turn. Liverpool reversing their decision to place non-playing staff on the UK government's coronavirus job retention scheme. The decision to furlough their staff drew criticism from across football, and particularly from prominent ex-players like Jamie Carragher and Dietmar Hamann. Liverpool Chief Executive Peter Moore announced their change of tack this evening in a letter saying they'd reached the wrong decision when saying staff would be furloughed. This is in contrast to Manchester United, who literally minutes before Liverpool announced their reversal confirmed they wouldn't be placing staff on leaves of absence. Instead, they've asked employees not working or with lighter than normal workloads to volunteer for the NHS or for community organisations in Manchester. Manchester City announced yesterday that they would not be furloughing staff either.
They lost the PR war on this very early, Nathan. Spurs, by the way, still pushing ahead with pay cuts and the furloughing of staff. I've seen a couple of dissenting voices here and there making the point that, look, they're entitled to avail of this scheme. It's part of a 20 billion package of money effectively printed by the Bank of England. It's there, and why not avail of it if your business has been impacted, which Liverpool's has. And yet, once it became a case of you're screwing the taxpayer. Piers Morgan even today with like a rant on morning television. It's taking money from the taxpayer, and you're still giving Mo Salah 200 grand a week. Once Liverpool, maybe of all clubs, once Liverpool were on the wrong side of that debate, I think they've done the correct thing here, cynically or otherwise, to get on the right side of it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think there's probably two parts. One is the Liverpool, as you say, of all clubs, and because of the run they've gone on under Jurgen Klopp, and maybe because of his personality as much as anything else, there's this incredible connection between the supporters, the players, and the club, and they almost see themselves with that old Barcelona motto of more than a club, that actually there's something deeper here that other clubs don't have, whereas actually what they've probably shown over the last 2-3 days is they're a business just like any other club, and whatever way they can stay alive and whatever way they can continue to make money, they're going to use it. the greater point is probably something that started ever since Matt Hancock came out at the end of last week and had a go at footballers, that football isn't like any other business. So there's an emotional connection that people have to football, to footballers, that it's not like a bank or a corner shop or anything else that will go and use these government methods and furlough staff, that clubs and supporters have an expectation that their clubs will act in the right way, particularly Premier League clubs, particularly Premier League players. Maybe it's not right. Maybe that expectation shouldn't be there, and there should be a bit more of a realization that this is a business, and maybe coming out of this, people will realize that even more. But I think people judge footballers and football clubs and hold them to a much higher standard, rightfully, than they do to normal businesses. And some clubs have been a bit slow in realising that. And
it was so glaring. I mean, Liverpool made 42 million in profit last year. The Fenway Group has a net worth of 2.2 billion. When it is so glaring that you're still in a position to pay Mo Salah 200 grand a week, it does not seem fair, right, proper to be availing of state-funded money. It just doesn't, to pay non-playing staff. It was too big. It was just too disparate. It's a situation that we're going to take that money from there, but out of our own pockets, we're giving out how many millions a week. And so they've made that decision, and that will put even more pressure on Spurs over the coming days. Meanwhile, Shane Lowry's hanging on to his trophy.
Yeah, the reason why you're in dark clothing this evening, Joe, you are in mourning. For the first time since the Second World War, the Open Championship has been cancelled. The 149th Open will still be played at Royal St George's at Sandwich, but in the summer of 2021. Shane Lowry reacted to the news almost immediately, saying he's disappointed not to be defending the Claret Jug this year.
Hi guys, obviously like everybody else, I'm very sad and disappointed that the RNA have had to cancel this year's Open Championship. At the end of the day, people's health and safety come way before any golf tournament, and I'm sure the RNA have thought long and hard about this and have made their decision based on everybody's health and safety. You can trust me when I say the Claret Jug is going to be in safe hands for another year, and I look forward to seeing you all in Royal St George's in 2021.
There we are. Just happened to be wearing his heavily logoed jumper and Swixon hat, but that's fine. That's fine. That's okay. Shane Lowry is on the show on Thursday, Nathan?
We hope so.
Okay.
That's the plan. That's the plan. Hopefully be talking to him over the next couple of days. And he gets to keep the Claret Jug. It's the only one that's been cancelled. The PGA Tour have come out today, and golf in America have all come together with a sort of plan for the second half of the year. Now, again, how realistic this is, but the Ryder Cup to go ahead, the PGA Tour to be back, I think, towards the end of June, the Masters to take place in November, the US PGA towards the end of the summer. Like, some of these don't seem realistic, but obviously golf in America, I think they just signed this $1 billion deal, the PGA Tour, with NBC. So there's so much money coming in from TV rights. I suspect they're very much prepared to go and start behind closed doors with no fans whatsoever. Whereas a large part of the thinking, you'd have to imagine, with the Open Championship is they've decided, actually, we're not hosting this unless we're going to be able to do it the way we normally do it. And obviously they want, 200,000 people generally coming to an Open Championship. There's a huge amount of revenue there for the RNA, that they decided actually the best thing for them wasn't to postpone it, was to cancel it. And we Paul McGinley on Golf Weekly last week talking about this, saying obviously everybody's insurance in place for this, and that by maybe cancelling rather than postponing, it's a bit more of a straightforward deal.
Okay. Frank Nobilo is going to be on Golf Weekly this week, by the way, on Thursday, I'm happy to say. So a few texts in. Good and bad here. We've got the full spectrum. Hi, Nathan. Care to comment on your beloved Liverpool asking the British government to fund 80% of the non-playing staff's wages? I know it's now looking like they've been humiliated into a U-turn, says Pat and Leash. We've already dealt with that. One of the nicer ones, to be followed by a not nice one. Lads, can I just say huge thanks for continued broadcasts over the past month in the wake of little or no sports. You've no idea how much you're keeping people going. People who tune in every night for the updates, reports, and good fun. Great job. And a heartfelt thanks from a girl who loves rugby. You're very welcome. Equally, though, why don't you guys find John Delaney, stick a mic under his nose, get an interview instead of this bloody rubbish you consistently trot out and call a programme?
Well, I could just imagine that. We'd go on some sort of treasure hunt trying to find John Delaney in a socially distant world. I'm driving down the M50 heading towards Waterford or wherever in the world he is. Where are you going? Oh, I'm just trying to chase down John Delaney to satisfy an angry listener.
I mean, it could be a hell of a true crime. Well, sorry, that's the wrong phrase.
Move on, Joe, quick.
I'm leaving it there.
Move on.
I'm leaving it there. It could be a hell of a podcast whereby we have to hunt down.
Where is John Delaney?
Yeah,
Waterford King.
There we go. So where am I next? We are.
Where are you, Joe?
Do I need to clarify that? I don't. Do I?
No.
I don't think so. It's obviously, Richie.
Yeah, I'll give some clarity to what Nathan was saying about the remaining 3 majors in the Ryder Cup to be played between August and November. The US PGA Championship, which was the first, of course, of these major tournaments really to be postponed, that's going to be taking place from August 6th. The US Open was the last to be postponed. September 17th is a new start date for that, a week before the Ryder Cup, while the Masters will now be played at Augusta from November the 12th. Almost as a precursor to this, another 2 tournaments on the European Tour were postponed today. June's Trophy Hassan in Morocco and the Scandinavian mixed event in Stockholm have both been shelved. Former Dundalk midfielder Richie Towell believes his old manager Stephen Kenny can change the mindset of the Republic of Ireland squad. Kenny officially took over, as you mentioned, Joe, of the senior international team at the weekend. It's unclear as to when he will actually take charge of the team for his first match, because the Euro 2020 playoff against Slovakia could now be postponed until next year. Towell told OTBAM that Kenny created a brilliant atmosphere for the success that they shared at Dundalk.
His team talks are so inspirational there. Every game you go out, you believe you can win. You never, even if you're playing in Europe and you know that the team's got bigger budgets and better players on paper, going out to the game, you always felt we can win this and we can win this comfortably. You never thought, we'll just try and stay in the game and until the last few minutes. He was just like, I remember we went over to play Pate Borisov away from home to a great pedigree at the time, and we were massive underdogs. And he just said, no, we're going there to win, and we're going there to keep the ball. And as soon as we went down the pitch, after 5-10 minutes, we realised, right, we're actually just as good as theirs. And I'll never forget that game over there. I think we got a draw, or they maybe narrowly beat us, but we absolutely battered them off the park with it. And when we came in, he said, I told you, like, I knew we were capable of doing it. But now you need to believe in it. And I think that's what he'll bring to the Irish side,
That's the exact template we're all looking for and hoping for, isn't it? As instilling a belief, playing in a certain way, and it would be great if that translates. That is the reason he has got the job. It's a perfect fit, you would hope, for Ireland, Nathan.
Well, that's one of the things that gets people so excited, is when you talk to former players, how they all rave about his personality and just his man management powers. I was reading a piece earlier from a few years back that Emmett Malone did about Stephen Kenny when Dundalk were going well. And Vinnie Perth was talking about the first time he had met Kenny. So Vinnie at this stage was still a player, 26, 27. And Kenny was convincing him to come to Longford, and how Kenny had sold him this dream. And he couldn't quite figure out why he believed him, but it was just the power of his personality forced him to think, actually, I don't know why it's all going to work out at Longford, but it is. And he took the decision to go there, and lots of good quality players took the decision to go there and have the success they had. So he clearly has that. It's the one thing that'll be interesting how that does translate. It's the one thing we just don't know. It's right from day one when this came up as to the players who don't know him, who you've got to say are probably few and far between at this stage. The players who don't know anything about Stephen Kenny, how they take to that in those first few incidents in the dressing room.
Yeah, and I hope, well, you say... there can't be many who don't know who he is. Richard Dunn today in the Evening Herald, or in the Herald rather, excuse me, it's on the Independent website. He, in part, is writing about various aspects of the new regime. He says, for the last 2 days I've been getting text messages from friends in England asking who is Stephen Kenny that Ireland have just appointed. And then he goes, oh, that's fair enough. Not everyone in the UK will know who he is. But then he says, Richard Dunn here, some people, including some players in the current senior squad, don't know who he is. Now, I presume that is not possible for players in the current senior side to not know who their incoming manager is in a matter of months, and who's also managing the under 21s. You're talking about head majorly in the sand, if that is the case. I found that line staggering.
I think you'd have to question the players. And I know people go back to maybe when Brian Kerr took charge and there were a couple of issues with some of the players, but this is a different level of player that Ireland have now. And one of the things I think Kenny can look forward to is that you look at the leaders within that group. They're all good, strong personalities, whether it's a Seamus Coleman, a James McLean. The good, wise old heads there are people that have all come out fully in support of Stephen Kenny and respect what he has done. James McLean's obviously worked with him, Seamus Coleman hasn't, but have done their due diligence, if you want to call it that, into his achievements at Dundalk. So they're going in there very much aware of what Kenny is about. And if you're an international footballer and you haven't looked into what even in the last 18 months, what the 21s have been doing, or read up a little bit, well, I don't think there's many players of the quality who can really afford to have that sort of attitude.
No, Stephen Kenny has managed in 40 plus European games of football. How many players in that squad have played in 40 plus games European football?
And here's the thing as well, lads. The thing that does not get mentioned near enough at the moment either. I mean, we've talked about his man management skills, his motivational tactics, etc., etc. His actual ability to coach a side is amazing. And we've seen that with his travails with Dundalk in Europe. We've seen it with his track record in the League of Ireland. We've seen it with the under-21s in recent times. His actual ability to coach, which I think is the difference between what David Moyler was saying about Martin O'Neill's attempts to play football with the Irish team. We all know, I guess, anecdotally and otherwise, what Irish training sessions were like with Martin O'Neill and with Roy Keane. They're both kind of distant figures and parlayed their information remotely, whereas Kenny's very much not that, and he will get on the pitch and tell players what they have to do, where they have to be and how they have to do it. He is a very, very good coach, and that's going to come across hopefully too.
That's very much the hope. Now, Richie, this next story, I've just seen it on my script. This is dreadfully sad news.
Yeah, terrible sad news. The mother of Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola has died after contracting coronavirus. The club confirmed the news this evening that Dolores Sara Carrillo passed away aged 82 in Barcelona. Last month, Guardiola donated €1 million to aid the fight against the virus in Spain. Sticking with matters Manchester City, and very much a different story this, Kyle Walker facing disciplinary action from the club after breaking the UK government's rules on social distancing. The England defender has apologised for his actions after it was reported he held a party at his home last week involving 2 sex workers. The Premier League champions have confirmed that they'll look into Walker's conduct.
Okay. Where are we going next?
Bernard Laporte, he's got big ideas. The Heineken Champions Cup could be replaced by a new Club World Cup if the French rugby president Bernard Laporte gets his way. He's proposed a 20-team tournament that will be played over 6 weeks towards the back end of the season. Laporte's proposal would see 6 Super Rugby entrants, 4 each from the Pro 14, English Premiership and French Top 14, as well as the champions from the United States and Japan. Laporte says the English are a few are on board. The top 14 clubs are enthused about it, but no mention just yet of what the Pro 14 thinks about this one.
I don't know where rugby's going in the next 10 years or so, Nathan, but it's going there very, very fast, and it's going there radically.
And you would expect that this is just going to speed things up, because rugby, you really feel, will need some sort of a very quick fix, something to bring money in at real speed. If all the autumn internationals are under threat, if all the summer tours are gone, if it does seem more likely in rugby that seasons are just finished, even though I see they're talking about maybe trying to play a Pro 14 final between Leinster and Edinburgh, that actually something that creates a huge buzz and brings a big new investment into the game is probably something the top teams need. Does that filter down? Who knows? But like, these are the opportunities. There's going to be sports around the world that look very different by the end of this, you'd imagine.
Yeah, like USA Rugby last week had to announce that they were filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the States. I mean, their male and female teams at international level are going to continue. But if you're offering the champions of the United States guaranteed TV money from playing 4 group games against some of the best in the world, that's going to solve an awful lot of their financial problems fairly quickly. And Laporte could be onto a winner with this one.
Speaking of the Pro 14, Rich, you're going there next.
Yeah, as Nathan alluded to, this season's Pro 14 could fast forward to a final meeting of conference leaders Leinster and Edinburgh. That's one of the options open to organisers, with the league suspended indefinitely due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Pro 14 chiefs are hoping to avoid the season being declared null and void.
Serie A then?
Yeah, their clubs have voted unanimously to cut wages by up to a third. It's been agreed that there is a desire to see the Italian season completed, but only when health conditions and government decisions to allow it. This comes after a conference call involving all the clubs and Lega Serie A officials. If the season's not completed, then wages will be cut by a third, and if it's completed, then wages will be trimmed by a sixth. Meanwhile, on a similar tip, it's reported that the Bundesliga will resume in early May. German magazine Bild say they're hoping for a restart date of either May the 2nd or the 9th. Some Bundesliga clubs, including Bayern Munich and Borussia Mönchengladbach, have returned to training today, but in small groups, and they're observing strict hygiene regulations.
And then Gareth Southgate.
Yeah, he's taken a 30% pay cut in order to help the Football Association deal with the ongoing financial effects of the coronavirus crisis. He's on $3 million a year, so he's going to see around £225,000 of his wages go. All employees at the FA earning 50 grand or more will take a temporary pay reduction of 7.5%, with senior management taking a 15% cut. The postponement of England internationals, FA Cup matches, the semi-finals and final at Wembley, and Wembley concerts as well, is forecast to cost the FA the equivalent of €113 million. The FA have also said they're considering the British government's furlough scheme as a contingency plan.
Right, and then a last one then on Heung-min Son.
Yeah, Tottenham have confirmed that Heung-min Son will start his mandatory 4-week national service in his native South Korea later this month. Now, the football is on hold indefinitely because of the pandemic. The forward is able to complete his obligatory military service as required by law in the country. The Premier League club say that Son will return to London in May.
Very good. Richie, thank you as ever for the news round this evening.
Cheers, lads.
Nathan Murphy, you're back on the football show between 9 and 10.
Yes, talk to you then.
All right, good man. Nathan Murphy, Richie McCormack there. Short ad break. Kevin Kilban back with us then.
Hi, I'm Mick McCarthy, and I'm